So if you could just tell me your name and where you're from.
My name is David Baldwin. I currently live in Crested Butte, Colorado.
Okay. How long have you been cross country skiing for?
I've been Nordic skiing for about 3 years. First couple of years, I was just kind of backcountry skiing on my own. And then in the past year, when I moved to Crested Butte, I had more of an opportunity to do some groomed trails and take some lessons and do some learning.
Gotcha. And when did you start actually racing?
Just this year.
Okay. How many races did you compete in? Do you know?
Um, I think I did 4 or 5
Okay.
Nordic races, and then did a couple skimo races through CB Nordic as well.
Gotcha. Okay. Did you actually take lessons or clinics to prepare specifically for racing at all?
So I took 2 classes. I took a like a skiing class to sort of get some technique um, on that, and then I also took a more of like a workout class, like a there's a just like a training regimen that built up to the Crested View Nordics Alley Loop race
Okay.
here. So I did both of those, and that was more racing specific, training and more based on fitness than technique. So had a little of both.
Okay. I hear from a lot of people that it's kind of intimidating and that's why they maybe don't want to try racing. Did you feel that intimidation before you started racing?
A little bit, yeah. It's there's a lot to learn. I think there's the technique, and then there's there's all sorts of little tricks you have to learn in like a mass start race. I did a lot of bike racing in my 20s, so a lot of that sort of transferred. Um, but I would say it's a lot less intimidating than like a bike race. At least in a Nordic race, you can do your own thing a little bit. If you like a bike race, if you get dropped off the back, like drafting is a big part of that.
Yeah.
Your day is pretty much over. But I'm not a great athlete. I'm not super competitive, but I enjoy the racing, and so like I guess one of the things in a Nordic race is that you can go out there and challenge yourself, and if even if you're not sort of competitive with the field, you can go out and have a good day and get a good workout and have fun. Um, Even if you don't have the right gear, and you can still complete the race and have a great day.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, you mentioned a lot of positives about racing. What would you say is kind of your favorite part of Nordic racing?
It's a good challenge. It's good to get out there and compete, and you can push yourself, I think, in ways that you wouldn't otherwise. And I mean, I'm not like I'm a mediocre athlete on a good day, whether that's on a bike or skis, and like, but you learn so much from racing that you wouldn't otherwise. You pick up all sorts of little tricks, whether that's from technique or gear or other things that will help you outside of racing. So I like just going out in the woods and shuffling sometimes, and I've just learned a lot of things from racing that have paid off, just for doing that sort of stuff, and taking those lessons and going through those races and pushing yourself kind of gets you, it pays off for other outdoor recreation besides like a race. So
Yeah, it's transferable to a lot of outdoor activities for sure.
yeah.
And then what advice would you give to someone maybe like myself who's never actually tried racing and is a little bit intimidated by it? What advice would you give for kind of starting out?
I would say I, one first thing was just to, go out, take whatever gear you have and whatever skills you have and go do it. And, you know, don't fall in the trap of necessarily saying like, I don't want to race. I don't want to get faster. Even if you don't think that's, the Lycra crew and like all the fancy gear is not for you, because just go do it. See if there's something you can glean from that. Because there's a lot of benefits to it that you don't see when if you get a little intimidated by all the stuff and say like I don't know. I think the most like the technical aspects like waxing can be a pain. Um, but go out and do it, and um, then you can focus on like actually being competitive, and maybe find someone at a Nordic center that can teach you about waxing, or take a class, or maybe take that class beforehand, and find a friend that can um, you know give you some tips for that first mass start race where it's everybody's sort of jostling for position, and that can be kind of that can be nerve wracking.
Right.
So a lot of it's finding the right people also to sort of maybe hype you up a little bit to go do it, or just to go find some friends to go ski with, and then maybe go do your first race, and have that be a positive experience.
Yeah, that's really great advice. And so as we kind of turn into, well, I feel like I was gonna say it's spring, but it feels like summer outside. 'Cause it's like
Yeah.
80 degrees where I am. So that being said, what are you planning to do activity wise during spring and summer to kind of stay in racing shape for next year?
I do a lot of biking, so I've been grasping to the last sort of strands of winter by biking out into some of the drainages around Crested Butte as they melt out, and finding that last bit of snow to ski on. That's been really fun, and I'll continue biking, and skate skiing and cycling have a lot of like aerobic overlap to them. So they one feeds into the other, and I really feel like the racing that I did put me in good shape for biking this spring, and it will probably have the same effect going into the fall for Nordic next year. So
Definitely. So since this was your first year, do you have any personal goals going into next year, related to racing?
I'm still relatively new, so I want to work on my technique. I had a lot of fun doing some of like the longer endurance races, and CB Nordic has some of these sort of like hybrid Nordic ski mountaineering races, like the Grand Traverse, and I'd like to do that next year. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, good luck to you. Enjoy your summer. I hope
thanks,
biking treats you well, and that you enjoy racing next year just as much.
thanks a lot. Enjoy the
Awesome.
weather.
Thanks, David. It was so nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you too.